Welcome to a lesson with Sketchy Student. Sketchy Student is a student who just read the Scarlet letter. He's trying to revise his paper. He knows his thesis statement needs some work, but he's not sure how. We're here to help him. I think if we read it, that's a good beginning. The meteor symbolizes the rigid beliefs of the Puritans because those in their society always only see what they already believe. I think that Sketchy Student has himself a chicken and egg problem here. He's talking about the meteor and what it symbolizes, and he knows that there's a tie to the beliefs of the Puritans. The problem is his cause and effect that he's setting up here. He's saying that the meteor does the symbolizing because of what somebody else is doing, and I'm not sure that that's true. Can you hear the circular logic? What we really want to do is make sure that what you say on paper is what you really mean. So just like you want to say what you mean, so does Sketchy Student. His problem is, what do I support? And I would tell him, well, you have to break down the key elements of the thesis to make sure that those are clear and to make sure that your cause and effect is right. And if you have identified those key elements, that's your first step. But of course, for him, his problem is, well, that was strange. His problem is, what's key? Here's a little trick to figuring out what's key. I think we should look for the nouns in his sentence. Those nouns are going to be the key elements or agents that are doing the action. We can see, which is the chicken and which is the egg. So in this particular case, we've got the meteor. We know that we have the beliefs. We mentioned the Puritans. We mentioned the society. Let's see what the verbs are here. Well, let's see. We've got seeing and we've got believing. And of course, as I said before, the doers. The Puritans, and of course the society. Now, if you've read the book, you know that he may have left some important people out. This could be incomplete for lots of other reasons. But we're just looking at it as a sentence, just to see, for starters, if the sentence itself makes sense. The first thing is to check for that faulty logic. Let's take example of that meteor. Does the meteor always symbolize rigid beliefs? To somebody else, the idea of a beautiful star streaking through the sky could symbolize brightness. It could be sudden good luck. It could be, all kinds of things. Does it symbolize what the Puritans believe to them, but symbolize something to someone else? And I think if you've read the book, you know that there's a number of people who see the meteor when Arthur Dimmesdale's on the scaffold, and of course he sees it one way and other people see it another way. So our student has to think more about this sentence just than this generalization that he's made there. So I would say his problem is that he needs to develop the sentence. And of course he's excited with this explanation. He says, oh, I see now. He's beginning to understand. Maybe the meteor is bringing some clarity for him. Cause and effect is a crucial element of any thesis that you write. The because here is a word that, you've definitely got to balance that, that sort of seesaw there, that what's over here definitely is balanced by what's over here. And, we have to look at the Puritan interpretation, but we have to start with the symbol itself. What are its qualities? Who are those people who interpret it? How does each person interpret it? I would say that after you've made that list of nouns and verbs, a great strategy to make sure your interpretation is thorough is, list those nouns and verbs, but also write out in a column, who's interpreting it how, and make sure that those things match up. Sketchy Student's on a roll now, so he's written a sentence something like this at the top. The meteor symbolizes, blood to the Puritans. I don't want to give you the answers. Blood to somebody else and blood to somebody else. The student writer should have several passages at this point that are, in his notebook. And he's got page numbers, he's got his MLA citation, and it's got the meteor passage, and all the other passages, there's a little misspelling there, all the other passages that state how the other viewers interpreted that meteor. But, when he's doing that background or the bias of each viewer is something he needs to note. Now, if you've read the book, you know that Arthur Dimmesdale sees the meteor as his Scarlet letter, and of course, let's see if I can draw an angel here. Somebody else, sees it as an angel. And of course he sees it as his scarlet letter in the sky. I'm not sure Sketchy Student really acknowledged Mr. Dimsdale specifically, and being specific is always a great way to do your writing. Well, as our student revises, his paper has to follow this pattern. He has to present the meteor itself. He's got to present its significance. You know, the meteor in the scarlet letter signifies angel to the people who have just lost their holy man, and it symbolizes the opposite of an angel. It symbolizes the guilt of Arthur Dimmesdale. So this same symbol is one thing to Mr. Dimmesdale and just about the exact opposite to the other people who see it. So he's going to have to make sure he explains viewer A. He can handle either Dimmesdale, or he can handle the people who saw it as angel. And then, of course, he has to handle viewers B. He's going to, say these two things with the view, the bias, the passage, and he's going to do it again for the other person. But be sure that he comes to a conclusion, or you, whenever you're writing, come to a conclusion. What's the significance of this? When I think about it, I think of how biases play into reliability. If I ask someone to, tell me what they saw, and they say they saw, a certain phenomena, I have to remember what their viewpoint is, and that's got to be key to my deciding whether they are a reliable reporter of what the factor is. So as you revise, break down the nouns and verbs. As you revise, have passages ready. And as you revise, be sure to understand what the significance is of where you're going with your thesis.